Hello again. Well, last video I said my next video was going to be either about the silky saw, 17 Hornet, or food, or fishing, and it just so happens that it's about fishing, as you'll see. So I was actually a little bit lucky, because quite often when I set out to achieve something fishing wise, it rarely happens. Ever since I sold my boat anyway. So when you're doing land-based fishing, it can be quite challenging, and what I set out to, my objective really, my hopeful objective was to go out and catch a barramundi and have it do the big somersaults, and I would slow-mo it, and you could see how the barramundi does its suplexes, and you know, and yeah, twists and turns and flips around in the water, in the air. Well, I achieved the objective of catching a barramundi on camera, so my first ever barramundi with my new action cam. But the problem was that when it jumped, my hand was in the way, so you don't see it jump. Now I really wanted to slow-mo that jump, because it's quite spectacular when they do jump, and they do jump a fair bit. This guy was only a juvenile, and he was undersized, and he'd obviously been in the fresh water for a while, because he had a bit of colour on his back. Usually the guys that had been hanging out in the salt are total mirrors, and they're just excellent eating. So if they are size, I do keep them, and I do eat them, because that's what I do. I eat fish. I'm not one of that, you know, there are people, and I understand it. I understand catch and release. I understand the concept behind it. I understand the ethics behind it. But I'll be quite upfront. I don't agree with it, because you know what? I will kill an animal and eat it. All right? But I don't believe in catching fish for the sole purpose of letting them go, unless they are undersized. All right? Now, the size limit for barramundi where I live is 58 centimetres. That fish was 52 centimetres. I let it go. Even if I had caught that fish, right, and I don't care what anyone says, right, and I'm probably one of the few people in the area that actually does abide by the law. I don't keep undersized barramundi, all right, and there's a few reasons for it. Number one, it's ethically wrong. Number two, if you got caught with an undersized barramundi, you're in serious trouble, because the penalties for being caught with an undersized barramundi are just ridiculous. Like, they're not ridiculous. I think they're justified. You know, the laws are there for a reason. So be it. And also, if you're catching them there's a barramundi season, and if you catch them out of season, if you caught a barramundi that was out of season and undersized, you would you'd probably go to jail. Seriously, the laws are that strict, and I don't have a problem with them, and I don't keep undersized barramundi because, I mean, I'm not poor, you know. I don't. It's not like I'm going to. My family is not going to starve to death because I don't keep an undersized barramundi. And a lot of the barramundi that you catch, especially in the catchments, in the lakes, and impoundments, dams and that, aren't particularly good eating. The barramundi that you catch here are excellent eating, because they are typically sea-run barramundi, and they are like mirrors. There's no other colour on them other than silver and a yellow tail, bright yellow tail. This guy that I caught was not. He had a greyish brownish back and a sort of a murky yellowish tail, which means that he had been up in the fresh water for quite a while, or spent most of his life up there. He wouldn't have been. He still would have been good eating because he was still quite silvery, but he wouldn't have been the best. But the point I was trying to get across is that I don't understand catch and I understand catch and release, but I don't agree with it. If you are specifically catching fish, you're essentially catching fish to traumatize them. All right, and people say, "Oh, you're a greenie," and no, I'm not. I'm not a greenie. But what's the point? Seriously. So I'm probably gonna cop a lot of flack for saying that, but that is my honest belief. I will only catch a fish for the sole purpose of consuming it. All right. I don't catch fish for, oh yeah, I caught this fish, it was so much fun, and then I'll let it go. And it's like, well, that fish is probably seriously traumatized. And, oh yeah, but they only got the brain the size of a pea. How much trauma can exist in that little brain? Well, it doesn't matter. Just yeah. So I don't understand that. But anyway, I love fishing. I love catching fish. I love eating fish. If the fish are undersized, I let them go. I do not keep them. And unfortunately, in this area, there is a lot of illegal fishing with nets, fishing with fishing out of season, spearing fish. I know because I've worked with people who've done it, and I don't agree with it. And this area it's a massive area for harvesting fish and seafood, like really. It wasn't that long. Well, it was a fair while ago that they actually ceased trawling in there's a massive island national park just off the coast here where I live, and they stopped trawling in that area because it pretty much destroyed it. It was a the area is a big nursery, and that trawling destroyed it, and because that's what trawling does, it just decimates areas. Because I grew up in Melbourne, and in Port Phillip Bay, the bay had just been destroyed by bottom trawling. They really just destroyed all the habitat in the bay. They used to catch huge snapper, and the snapper disappeared because the habitat was destroyed by bottom trawling. What the government there did, and rightfully, was that they bought all those trawlers out, all those fishing licenses. They paid them out, and they didn't rip them off. They paid them out quite well, and they said, "Here you go. Here's a heap of money. Go away because you've destroyed the place," and they did. And guess what? Port Phillip Bay is back to its normal self, back to where it used to be, and it was probably got back there like 15, 20 years ago, because it took probably 20 years, a good 20 years for that habitat to regain its health. So I'm 100% against catching out of season and catching undersize, and unfortunately in this area there are a lot of people that do that. But yeah, that's a bit of a negative note that I'm doing this intro in. But the wonderful thing is that I actually caught a barramundi, but the horrible thing is I had my hand in the way when it jumped, so you don't get a very good image of it jumping, or you don't get an image at all of it jumping, just a bit of splashing in the water. Yeah, so I'm really happy because that's my first actual fish caught on my new action cam, and hopefully there's going to be a heap more. I've got almost a month off now, so I'm going to do a heap of fishing, and because it's getting quite hot, actually very hot, I'm sweating like crazy now, the fishing should heat up, so I should catch a lot more fish. I didn't think I would catch anything because it was just, well, you'll see. And I have to apologise. Okay, I'm sorry. The wind buffeting, the wind noise is insane. You know, you can hardly hear me talk most of the time. I'm going to edit most of the really bad crap out, so you can just hear me talk when you can actually hear me talk and not just the wind. But hopefully this is the start of more fishing videos, and I've learnt my lesson. Don't have your hand in the way, alright, because I'm still learning how to use the action cam, so I'll try and keep my hands lower so you can see the actual action happening and not, you know, my hands, you know, winding the reel. But yeah, it was a very challenging environment. The weather, the wind was just, yeah, insane. So I hope you enjoy it and watch me catching a barramundi. So see you later. Alrighty. Well, you can probably hear what the wind is like. It's not much better than the last time I came here. I didn't bring the action cam last time because it was so windy, but what do you do? Mother Nature conspires. I hope you can hear me over the wind. Anyway, I brought two rods. I brought a light rod and a heavier rod. I think this is 20 pound braid. I think it's firewire or whatever. And using this thing, which is, I think it's a Gulps, or it's either a Gulps or a Zebra. It's a Gulps. It's pretty realistic actually. So hope something has a go at it. So we'll have a go out here. Try and have my back to the wind. Yeah, try and shield it. So I've got to try and stay away from them. Oh, it's almost right on the tree, but that's where the predators will be. They'll be hanging around those trees. Now, this wind is even worse than last time actually, because I've actually, I don't know if you can see, there's little mini whitecaps everywhere. I want to try and stay near the bottom for the flathead, because even though they will take surface baits and lures, they are predominantly they hide themselves in the sand because they are flat in body. They'll hide themselves in the sand, and they've got a huge mouth on them. So when something edible makes a mistake of going past them, they just inhale it. It's insane. Tell you what, if I actually catch something, this lure's not doing it. It's just skimming along at the top. It doesn't want to stay down. That jig head's too light. Take it off. But I thought, no, that jig head's big enough. Nah. I've got to go bigger. It is quite a realistic looking little bugger. Yeah. The only problem with these is that they're quite fragile. Like, yeah. They don't really stand up to any punishment. Oh man, gale force winds. I'm actually having to lean into this. There's my other rod, and
trying the squid. Yeah, I will. This is a wacky looking thing. Oh, it's stuck to it. You see that? It's a squid pattern. Not sure whether it's a gulp or a Z man, I can't remember now. Yeah, have a look at it. I don't know. Maybe something out there that was stupid enough to take it. Ready to go. There it is. Have a look at that thing. It's sort of like, almost like a frog lure. But no, it's supposed to be a squid or an octopus. Once you think you're an expert at something, you become really cocky and arrogant. And, luckily, I'll admit, that's a pretty cast, so I'm not an expert at anything. Oh, there you go. No way. Let it go. Something had to go at that. I would have thought there'd be some flathead hang around here. Nice and shallow for them. I like that. They'll hang around the shallows and just wait for something to scoot on past. Cut the cast. I remember once, see out there, there's a bar, you see that bar? I was standing on that bar and I was about knee deep, and because I'd come along this bank, and I was just luring my way along, and I thought I'll go out there and I'll try and cast into the deeper water that's in that channel. And anyway, I've cast out there and I'm retrieving my lure, and oh man, I thought I see this dark shape chasing my lure, you know, just trailing it. And I thought, oh, and I'm thinking, and the shape of it, I thought, oh, that's a big Spanish mackerel. It's a huge, because we get some big Spanish mackerel around here. That's a big Spaniard. Anyway, I've retrieved it. I get it to about, I don't know, 10 feet away from me, and then I realise it's a bull shark. And I almost soiled my underpants. Luckily, they are very aggressive sharks. They really are. And this is a real nursery for them. All this area around here, all the rivers around here, it's a real nursery for bull sharks. And they are really aggressive, and they do kill people. I've almost cacked my pants, and this thing's obviously seen me and just swung around and took off. Luckily, because either it was just going to run straight into me, and that would have been disastrous. You know, if you've never actually physically inspected the mouth of a shark, in particular a bull shark, if you've never had the opportunity to inspect its teeth, they are literally razor sharp. Like, I mean razor sharp. Seriously sharp. And the last thing I wanted was for that thing to run straight into me and possibly do serious damage to me. Complete waste of time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make my way up to my bucket and that. And if I haven't hooked on anything by that time, I'm going to go home and I'm going to call this video complete waste of time. And the tag will be don't watch. And it'll probably get more hits than any other video I ever made when I say don't watch it. Oh yeah? Oh, did you see that? That was a mangrove jack. I just had a mangrove jack. Just follow that to within about 10 feet of me. Oh, I hope he comes back. but he wasn't interested in it. This is obviously pretty weird looking. Oh, there he goes. Oh, I got him. Woohoo! There you go. Oh, yeah. Oh, he's a good one. Oh, this is a nice jack. Oh, is it a jack? It's a little barra. I don't know what it is. Let's have a look at you. Oh, it's a jack. No, it's a jack. Oh, no, it's a barra. Woohoo! There you go. Yeah, I'll let the so you can jump around a fair bit more. Go on, go. Go on, have a bit of a jump. Come on. Come on. I don't care if I bring this in or not. You can see that in the water. Oh, they're a beautiful little fish. You know, the little guy. That's typically what I get here. Come on, go. Let him go. Go on, go. I haven't fouled with him. I'm going to jump a little bit more. More acrobatics. Come on. Tease him a bit. Come on, jump. Nah, he doesn't want to jump anymore, eh? You're not already tired out, are you? Bring him here in the shallows. Oh, there he goes. Oh, no, he's not tired out. He's not jumping. Do a bit of jumping. What hit it before? I thought it was a jack. It's a barra. Because he's you see? He's a little bit too small. You can tell straight away. After having caught, I won't say hundreds, but quite a few, you can tell when they're undersized, and because they've got to be 58 here. They only have to be 55 in the Gulf Carpentaria, but here they've got to be 58, and there's no way that he's 58. So I'll quickly, they are quite a hardy fish, so he's not going to die. I've got him like this, but my ruler's up there. I don't know how this is going to look. Probably haven't got the steady function on. I forgot to measure him. I wouldn't mind eating him if he is size. Let's get that hook out. Oh, that was easy. And how big is he? He is. Oh, he's only just. Yeah, he's only just what? 50, 51, 52. So he's. So there you go. That is a Barramundi. Amazing fish, really beautiful creature, really beautiful. He's got a fair bit of that brownish grey on the back, which means he's been up in the fresh a fair bit. He's got that yellow tail. It's not quite bright. Typically the ones that are bred in the sea most of the time are just like mirrors. And oh, he's fat and chunky too. I'll let him go. Go on, mate. Want to go or what? Huh? There he goes. So there you go. That is a Barramundi. That's what followed my. It's probably what hit my mate before